Welcome to project management class, and this is video number 5, and the topic is project management lifecycle, and the focus will be on the PMBOK 6 perspective and knowledge areas. So before we get started, let me provide you with a brief history of the PMBOK. What is the PMBOK? The PMBOK stands for Project Management Body of Knowledge. It is a guide published by the US-based Project Management Association. I'm talking about the PMI, which stands for Project Management Institute. The first edition of the PMBOK was released in 1996, the second edition in 2000, the third one in 2005, the fourth one in 2008, the fifth edition was released in 2013, followed by the sixth edition in 2017, and the latest edition, I'm talking about the PMBOK 7th edition, is released in 2021. The PMBOK is a living document, which means that from time to time, you will see changes in that guide or that document. So, because we have a new version of the PMBOK, I have tried to compare the structure of the PMBOK guide between edition 6 and edition 7. So in a nutshell, you will see that the PMBOK 6 was becoming too big. It was about 978 pages. That was too big. And they decided to revise the PMBOK guide and to reduce it to a level that is more manageable or more readable, so to help the reading experience of the readers of the PMBOK guide. So from the 10 knowledge areas that was the focus of the PMBOK guide, they moved to 8 performance domains and 12 principles. I'm going to talk about these principles later. So PMBOK 7 as compared to PMBOK 6 is focused on principles and performance domains. That's the major difference between the two in terms of the structure and content. So, how about the project management lifecycle? So, every project typically starts with the initiation phase, where you ask yourself, what is the project? What is the project about? And how can we set up the project for success? And then it moves into the planning phase, which is all about getting your estimates of time and cost and resources and quality right. And then the project moves into the execution phase, where you deliver the products and services that the project is all about. And once everything is done in the project, once the deliverable is delivered, if the deliverable is a house, if the deliverable is, for instance, a school or a hospital or a computer, then the deliverable is given to a client. So once it is delivered to a client, then you can think about what you have learned and close out the project. So these are the 4 typical phases that you're going to see in the PMBOK version 6, which is called the project management lifecycle. So you will see that the level of effort in that project management lifecycle varies according to the 4 phases. So the level of effort is at its peak during the execution phase, and at its low end during the closing out phase. Now, how about relating deliverables to the different phases of a project lifecycle? So if we use the PMI jargon, the initiation phase leads to what is called a document, a key deliverable, or a document. I'm talking about documentation here. That is called project charter. And the planning phase will lead to a key document that is called the project plan. The execution phase will lead to the deliverables themselves, the products or services. Think about computer, think about an iPhone, think about or a smartphone, or think about a school or a hospital, as I just said. The closing phase will lead to an implementation report or an ex-post evaluation report. So much about the project lifecycle, the project management lifecycle, and the deliverables. Now, how about the project lifecycle in different sectors? So as much as the four phases might sound typical, you have differing project lifecycle in different industry sectors, but they all boil down to a typical initiation, planning, and execution and closure phases. So for instance, in construction, you might have a life cycle that typically takes 2-3 years. In aeronautics, you might have a life cycle that typically takes 5 or 6 years. In pharmaceutics, you might have a life cycle that takes up to 10 years. But, basically, the point is that you have different project life cycle in different industry sectors, but they all boil down to initiation, planning, execution, and closing. So how about the 10 knowledge areas that you got in the Project Management Body of Knowledge, version 6? So as you know, a project is limited in time, or more precisely, a project has a beginning and has an end. Because a project has a beginning and an end, then you're bound to manage time. So the first knowledge area is project time management. All projects are limited in resources and budget. So you need to manage the budget. You need to manage cost. So hence, the second knowledge area is project cost management. So all projects are supposed to deliver features. Otherwise, the quality of the deliverables will not be on par with expectations. So again, when I'm talking about features, using the smartphone example that I gave in one of the first lectures or videos, it's all about, for instance, getting a nice picture from your smartphone. That's a feature for your smartphone. Placing a call is another feature for your smartphone. So if these features are not on par with expectations, if these specifications are not good enough, then quality is not good enough. So you need to manage quality. That's the third knowledge area. All projects are all about, they are made by people for people. So because they are made by people for people and with people, then you need to manage human resources in the project. So that's a knowledge area called project human resource management. So it is often said that 90% of a project is all about communication. So you need to manage communications in the project. Hence, project communication management is yet another knowledge area. All projects are a bet on the future, or if you prefer, projects, they create future. You need to move in a project from a present situation to a desired situation. In that sense, you're bound to face risk. And therefore, project risk management is another knowledge area of consideration in managing a project. For any project, you can consider projects as transformation processes. So in that sense, you need inputs to feed the transformation process, and you also need outputs, because without these outputs, you won't have the deliverables that you want out of a project. Therefore, you need to manage procurement in your project, and that's another knowledge area. As I was saying, projects are done by people and for other people. So in that sense, you need to cater to the interest and expectations of these people involved in the project, and these people might be groups of people that have a stake in the project. I mean, you need to understand their interest and their expectations. That is a knowledge area, at least in the PMBOK version 6, that is called Project Stakeholder Management. Now, we have a 10th knowledge area that is, coined Project Integration Management. What is it about? You know that, we have 4 phases: initiation, planning, execution, and closing. So anything, because the project is a system, anything that you've done at the initiation phase will go into the planning phase, and anything at the planning phase will go into the execution phase, and anything that has been done at the execution phase will nourish the closing phase. In that sense, so the project charter, the content of the project charter will feed into the planning phase or the project plan, and the project plan will feed into the execution phase, and the execution phase will feed into the closing phase. In that sense, project integration management helps you integrate all the information so that you keep the project a system. The final thing that I would like to touch upon here is that you have a number of processes that has been devised by the PMBOK to help you structure a project or help you understand what project management, at least technically, is about. So if you consider all these knowledge areas and the processes within each of the 10 knowledge areas, then they sum up to a total of 47 processes. I'm not going to go in detail, but you need to understand the kind of philosophy that is behind the PMBOK SIS. The PMBOK SIS is all about knowledge, but not about know-how. It's all about technically how can you structure your project. I'm going to come back to that later on while I'm going to compare in depth the PMBOK SIS and the PMBOK 7. So much about the project management lifecycle and the PMBOK SIS perspective, its knowledge areas and processes. Thank you.